All right, and we're live. I am joined today with alumni of Dangerous Rhetoric. My first chance to talk with Basil. I, of course, am ProfessorTieDye, also known as JL, the co-host of the Dangerous Rhetoric podcast. And Basil, before we go any further, I do have a quick question. Are you in fact brown and gay?
Exposed, revealed, scalped.
Okay.
Yep.
Right, well, that ends our podcast. Thank you. I'm just joking. No, I just think that's like the biggest own people have on you. So
yeah, don't forget fat, brown,
oh,
fat,
sorry.
and gay. Yeah.
Sorry.
So
Okay. So
yeah,
okay. So
we're basically the same skin tone, just for the record, for the listening audience.
You and me.
Yeah.
Well. So like this is something too. Like I have like actual Dakota ancestry because like my family came here. Then like my great aunt and great grandma were Dakota, and then basically
so you're well, I guess red. I don't know.
Yes. So I'm like a lovely kid, like a lovely pink, white, like right and red. That'd be pink.
Yes, but the allegations are true. I am brown and fat and gay. It's very true. But I'm not. I've never been. They can't call me wrong though. That's the thing.
Exactly. I mean, all they have is an ad hominem, and that's what I just love. It's like JL's fat. I'm like, yeah.
And
you see, like unlike you, I'm a Midwestern father, so I am Midwest dad skinny.
Oh yeah. I do well in Chicago. I love going to Chicago because I go from like a solid 3-4 in New York to being like a solid 4-5 in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
I mean,
really nice.
Yeah, it's like one of those things. Like, dude, I'm perfectly happy being a Midwestern like 10. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not planning on going anywhere else.
Right, exactly. No, for me, it's much tougher out here. I need to get my ass to the Midwest for sure.
No, but one thing I was hoping to talk is like some of my audience might know who you are because you've been on the Ralph Report. I kind of have a little bit of crossover of like the Dangerous Rhetoric, but then I have kind of the A-log sphere.
Interesting.
So people might know you from there. So one thing I wanted to get out to the audience first that I find is very interesting and I've been a fan of. What is sexletics?
Oh, okay, yeah. So sexletics is about understanding, media movements, market movements, industry movements, by way of understanding who's having sexual relationships with who, right? It's about, why did this person get a promotion? Why was this person published? Why was this person defended? Why was that person not defended? By understanding the facts of like, oh, these two have slept together. Oh, this one wants to sleep with that one. Oh, this one and that one have had some sort of previous relationship. So it's about having like another layer of an analysis beyond just like, okay, well, this organization gets its funding from here, so that explains why it has this position. Oh, okay, well, further on top of that, we can understand that like the CEO of this organization is sleeping with this person, and so that's why this person got hired for this position. That's sexletics.
Okay, so let's say like a former rent boy possibly slept with like a high up person with a lot of money that like venture capital founded stuff and has an economics degree and is put into a technology role. That would, for instance, be sexletics, because like a job.
Yeah, I mean, you could just, thinking about this completely made up hypothetical further, right? Mm-hmm. Say this person was trying to ingratiate themselves in an online political sphere that's downstream of people like Bronze Age Pervert and, Red Scare and I Am 1776 and Passage Press and whatever. It would make sense that that person, because they had some sort of sexual relationship with, a tech billionaire who also has their funding tentacles in that sphere, might then, try to come up and say, actually, gay adoption is Bronze Age and very right wing and homo-fascism and this type of thing, and it would start to explain why those types of things are trying to converge in that space.
Okay, and so then like if there's like let's say like a little fashy youth movement that is kind of known for like grooming young people, that could also be why this person then does large super chat donations to that leader, so they can get. I mean, because they obviously have kind of.
I think I'm losing the analogy, but I'm going to nod along.
Okay, well, I mean, this kind of like a hypothetical person, and let's say like they want to get in with like young Aryan youth, and so they start giving large super chats to the leader of that donation.
Well,
and there's already been like,
this is like non-specific at this point. This is just many such cases. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah. So I'm just saying like there's like you know, then this group has already had kind of like a high profile political person use the organization to get access to young white men, and this person can, you know, lack of a better term, pay for play. I mean, it all kind of follows.
It does sound like what you're describing is a kind of what you're doing is a kind of sexlectic analysis. Yes,
Okay.
that's exactly sounds about right.
Yeah. I mean, this is a completely hypothetical person that, you know,
Yeah.
I,
We're
I
not
mean,
even gonna
just,
say we're gonna be very careful to be hypothetical and not even say any we're not even gonna,
yeah. I
mention any
mean,
type of proper nouns.
yeah, this could be any number of
Yeah,
millions of
and
people.
truly, even the hypothetical, truly, it is so common. It is many such cases. Like it's not,
Yeah.
pick any example you want is a particular case, but it is
Yeah.
across the board.
Yeah. I mean, it's very common. And it's kind of one of those things I always laugh at, is that how people fall for these kind of ops, you
Mhm.
know, kind of like it's like, I don't want to say it's catfishing, but it's almost like a weird catfishing kind of thing, that you get somebody to fall for this kind of thing, like, oh, I can give you access, but you have to have
Yeah,
sex with me, kind
yeah,
of thing.
totally,
And
totally.
you know, and as soon as they get in
It's a
there,
great gig. It's a great gig. Trust me. If in different world, I'm like, why the fuck? I mean, yeah, that's how the world works. It's how the world has always worked.
yeah.
During Me Too or whatever, the entertainment industry tried to kind of make Harvey Weinstein a kind of sin eater for the
Hmm.
casting couch. But I mean, since the 20s, since Hollywood was in Fort Lee, the
Yeah.
casting couch has always been the thing. And that's how all of this has always worked. As long as there have been, women in public life, this has
Hmm.
always been a thing.
Yeah.
Secretaries, the whole bit. And then even before that, even before women were involved in public life, still the same type of thing, Hollywood
Yeah.
and, so yeah, I mean, I think it's something that's actually very intuitive. And I think that no honest person would act, or not a sophisticated person would ever doubt it.
Hmm.
It's just that I think it's useful to have a kind of word for it, right? Because
Yeah.
what we're talking about is really kind of like a sexualized patronage type of
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
And that's the mechanism, but taking a step back and looking at it broadly, it's like, yeah, it's sexletics. It's the dialectic
Yeah.
of, how these things are moving along.
Yeah. I think a lot of the rejection of it that I've kind of seen is that you don't say such things in polite society.
Right.
You,
Also,
you,
it's
you
that and
don't. Oh, sorry.
coyness.
What?
It's that and being coy.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't want to accept that you want to suck and fuck your way to the top, or that you may
Yeah.
have gotten a position because someone wants to suck and fuck with you. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, or the whole thing is like, just the pure concept, like, oh, that's misogyny. Like, I saw somebody one time, I'm like, no, like, it's pretty well documented that Kamala Harris slept with numerous people and advanced up. It's kind of documented. This falls within it. And then saying other people probably did the same thing, given, criteria of how it lines up. It's not really slanderous or anything. It's just kind of like, it's how do I put it? The oldest profession is prostitution,
right,
kind of thing.
right.
It's just that you're receiving a different currency.
Well, the thing
You're
is, too, it's like the ancient Romans thought of actors as lower than prostitutes,
Yeah.
because prostitutes, there's actually like an air of honesty about it. I am
Yeah.
transacting with you sex for money, right?
Yeah.
Whereas actors, it's the exact same thing, right? Who
Hmm.
gets casted, who gets produced, who gets whatever, but with this like level of obfuscation in which these people allow themselves to think of themselves as not as prostitutes. And then when we think about Twitter or the
Hmm.
internet as being uh a microcosm of the entertainment industry, right? Where
Yeah.
where your favorite take sellers, your favorite accounts, whatever, are engaging in an entertainment business.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are actors, these are prostitutes, these are, and I don't mean that to say like a value judgment, right? I mean, if I
Yeah.
could trade on my looks, I would trade on my looks. Don't get me wrong. And then like to think too, where it's like, oh, that's misogynistic. I'm like, okay, who cares? That's you're categorizing this thing. Is it true?
Yeah.
It's true. It doesn't just because it's misogynistic doesn't mean it's not true. Just because
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah. That's what I always love about the kind of stuff, because like, Josh Slocum, Disaffected, I popped into something like, this is the most canned response, saying like, whatever, and the guy just got attacked, like, oh, that's misogyny, only a misogynist would say that. I'm like, okay, yeah,
all of
sure,
those
go.
thought terminating cliches. Oh, that's racist. I don't care. Is it true?
Yeah.
Oh, it's homophobic. I don't care. Is it true? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't make the stats. The stats are the stats. But if you have, and when it comes down to it, it's like another large aspect of the whole like Basilian, kind of worldview, is that if you have, a racial identity,
Mhm.
or a sexual identity or a gender identity, then those kind of unpleasant facts or statistics really undercut not only your sense of self, but also a whole legal privilege system that you are,
Mhm.
have access to, because you're able to say, I am black, I am brown, I am Asian, I am
Yeah.
gay, I am a woman, I am trans, right? You now are able to be like, those things are in the Civil Rights Act. You can't discriminate against me. So when people
Yeah.
say, like, oh, let's bring up those abuse statistics. Oh, okay. So you don't want to talk about that because that might undercut the legitimacy of your sexual identity, which is the basis of your legal privileges, right? Or let's talk about
Yeah.
crime statistics. That might undercut the legitimacy of the, justification for your
Yeah.
race-based legal privileges.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big thing too, is like because like my interactions like with homocons, I notice a lot of times I'll say something and how many people just go batshit over something I think is like, oh, this is like a bland take. Like saying like PrEP is a lifestyle drug, not a life-saving medication, and just people get pissed.
Right. They don't
I'm
want
not
to address that. They don't want to address the fact that it's like you're on state sponsored cum dump pills. You don't have to let all those men run up in you like in your spirit like that. And you are by the penalty of law forcing everyone else to pay for your cum dump pills. Right? And
yeah,
it doesn't, and at the end of the day, you could do it or not do it. It's this America, it's God bless it. But if you're on PrEP, you're a leftist.
yeah,
If you are gay married, you are a leftist, because you are taking part in and taking advantage of the legal structures to funnel money from regular people to you,
mhm,
and that also censors regular people. That
yeah,
also prevents that, erodes their freedom of association. So just because you're not the bleeding edge of the left, right? You're not the trans question,
yeah.
right? And even if you rail against them all day, you're a leftist, baby. You're just a leftist from 15 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, because one thing I made a post about is I said that gay Christians, like there's very few that I'll be like, yep, you're brother and sister in Christ, like from how they live. So many of them have this weird amalgamation of progressive theology, which is like Reverend Brandon Robinson, who wrote like Queering Jesus, I think, and then Caleb something out in California. Like he basically will just say these like weird, just like off the wall like shit, like stuff like how like they took Genesis and how like in the beginning God created man and woman, but that does include like the dawn and the evening, which is like trans and non-gender, like gender non-conforming people.
That
And
shit makes
there's
my skin crawl. That shit
oh
makes my skin.
oh it does it pissed me off, and I'm like, see, the problem is that when you appeal to like a theological authority, you end up going back to those people or the people who taught those people. So you can't legitimately say like what you're doing is moral or correct without like quoting back to extremely leftist, almost communist theology. It's like you get to where it came from. It's like the fruit of the poisonous tree. It's still bad. It doesn't matter.
Right. I
Yeah,
think there's a huge problem, and it's a problem of language
yeah,
in terms of language creating conceptions
hmm,
that kind of people end up trapping themselves into, right? Where I would never call myself, I mean, I do as a shorthand just because I'm not trying to have
yeah,
an hour-long conversation with every person I come across, but I don't call myself a gay Muslim, even though I'm a gay Muslim, because prior to the sexual revolution and prior to the gay liberation movement or whatever, there was no conception of a person being immutably gay,
yeah,
right? You were a Christian, a Muslim, whatever, who had same sex attractions.
hmm,
Just like normal men have opposite sex attractions. And just like for those normal men, fornication and adultery are sins, right?
hmm,
But you don't say, I'm a horny Christian, right?
yeah,
You just say I'm a Christian, and if I don't meet my moral standards, whatever, I repent, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But this whole conception of like, I'm a gay Christian, therefore I have to find some sort of justification in the scripture. I have to twist the story of Lot and his people and make it about inhospitality.
oh yeah,
And it's like,
that's
no, we don't call it sodomy when you're rude to your guest. We call it sodomy when you fuck them in the ass.
yeah,
So let's be fucking for real. And I feel bad because I know that there are people who are same sex attracted who as commendable as it is, like choose not to or strive to, I don't want to say like you never strive to for celibacy or whatever. I
Mhm,
think that's great, and I really applaud those people. Like, good for you. That's amazing.
mhm.
Because you should like you want to not sin and you want all of that stuff. That's great. But I feel bad in the sense that they are kind of so dyed in the wool of like 3-4 generations post sexual revolution that they still have to grapple with this thing of like trying to fit this like post sexual revolution identity of being gay in with being Christian. It's like, dude, you're just a Christian man, right?
Yeah,
It's just that your whispers in your ear at night are of a certain type of perversity, which is just like fornication is wrong.
yeah.
You know, it's like, so yeah, so I that there's a lot there, but
No, I mean that's one thing I always find very funny about like some of the stuff because like probably know like Paul and yeah Acts when sorry Philip comes across the Ethiopian eunuch and people try to say oh that's a trans person like they're like retroactively making that the Ethiopian eunuch a trans person. Did you know that?
No,
Have you
I
seen
didn't
that
know
lately?
that.
Yeah. So
I don't even know that story.
so in Acts, Philip comes across an Ethiopian eunuch who's reading the Old Testament, and he asks like, how can I, understand this? And Paul's like, we need someone. Philip says he needs someone to guide you. I keep thinking Paul because a lot of Acts about Paul I'm messing up. I apologize. Yeah, and so they're now trying to say that's a trans person. So like the church embraced trans people, and I'm like, but later on in Paul's writings, how it says like some people are given to be eunuchs, which is like sexually like chaste, like for the rest of their lives, like whole theological rabbit hole. But it's like this weird changing of okay, so a eunuch at that time was trans, but it doesn't mean that they were a man of like privilege around women and basically had to be castrated to fulfill that role. And
Right.
they had a very amazing life as a result. It has nothing to do with being trans. It's just yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
mean
what
there are even Muslims who do something similar because there is a concept in Islamic jurisprudence about hermaphroditism,
mhm,
right? Although true hermaphrodites have never been recorded in human history in the sense of
yeah,
having two sets of working of functional reproductive systems. Some progressive, I won't even call them Muslims, like liberals in Muslim face
mhm,
will try to say that this is, you know, uh, religious justification for sexual reassignment surgeries or gender
mhm,
identity or whatever the case may be. But I think what gets lost in this, and this is the only you could only have this kind of conversation after you're fully past rejecting gender ideology and whatever
mhm,
and saying we don't have gender identity isn't real, blah 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 blah.
yeah,
Where once you know that, you could still acknowledge the fact that there have always been men who, by their nature, will never conform to society's expectations of masculinity, right?
yeah,
In Afghanistan, we have a word for it. It's Izak, right?
mhm,
And it's like just hyper effeminate men, boys and men. They end up being, unfortunately, they end up being like prostitutes or dancers or whatever.
mhm,
Um, uh, but nowadays, this has been completely wrapped into a broader LGBT like ification
yeah,
of that culture, which of course ties directly because it's all one thing, right? That's a very Basilian phrase too. It's all one thing, where these effeminate Afghan boys and men are being shuttled to Germany or Europe or wherever
mhm,
under the guise of like, well, they're gay and they're trans and they're this and they're that. It's like these types of people exist in Afghanistan for forever.
yeah,
We didn't have pogroms against them. It's like we just didn't have them being like a legally privileged class. Sure, were there issues with like how society treated them? Sure, totally. But
yeah.
like sodomy was illegal in this country until 2001 in Texas. Like what the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah, I know. Well, it's that weird, like rose-colored glasses that a lot of like Western liberals put on. Is that you forget how recently, we were a homophobic nation, kind of thing by your standard, and it's like you're doing this like glossing of like these countries and like the way it is. Like even in India, there is that subclass of male prostitutes. That I mean, there's a lot of countries that have that. It's
And they're lauded by Western liberals. And it's like that
yeah,
is like a sad existence. These
yeah,
people are like recruited and castrated and whatever. Like it's like not something to aspire to.
yeah,
It's actually restrictive. because when we do this, by setting up a third category is not expansive. It is increasingly restrictive because you would now have a third category of stereotypes and expectations to conform with, right? Where if we just say like, some men are not very masculine, some men are very effeminate, some women are very masculine, that's actually the expansionist, liberatory, whatever, by saying like, you know, you could be the most, you know, effeminate man. You're not a woman. You're just an effeminate man.
Yeah.
And that's the way that you can be a man because you'll never not be a man. Like we are framed as being, obviously, like we're preaching to the choir, right? But like we're framed as being repressive and regressive and whatever. But obviously, our position is the one that's like, and I don't mean to hold it as like a value to be like, yes, we should be the most. We're doing the left are the real racists, the left are the real transphobes. But if you really think about it, ours is the one that like alleviates the most angst for people.
So you're speaking of the third category. Do you know where Two Spirit comes from?
Like 1991, they got together and we're like, actually, at this powwow, we're gonna.
So it actually is a Native American thing. But what it is, specifically speaking for Plains tribes, there's a one person at a time, like in a tribe, maybe maybe there is one in like within the tribe at a time that was called a Bodashi. And what it was a man or a woman that was either very hyper masculine or hyper feminine, and they, without any surgical alterations, they then lived as the opposite. So like there'd be a man, they'd live as a woman, they'd marry another man, or a woman to become a man, marry another woman, and it was a spiritual role. It wasn't a weird third gender combination of the two. It was and
it wasn't 10% of your tribe. And, you know, it wasn't like,
it was like,
and my kids and my husband or whatever, we're all Two Spirit. It's like, all right, let's calm down.
So Two Spirit, like if you want to talk about cultural appropriation, so like for example, like my tribe, the Mid-Washington tribe that my family goes to, like there'd be one, maybe at best, there'd be one person within the tribe that filled that role because it was like a spiritual role, spiritual advisor role. It's almost like the Maori like warriors too, how they think, oh, they're whatever. It's like, part of my language that like the incredible Butch Dykes went on raiding parties because they could beat the shit out of the little like Nancy boys. They were more equipped to be warriors, so the little Nancy boys stayed with the village, and the like Butch Dykes went on the raiding party. It's very practical. They weren't.
I was gonna say it's exceedingly practical, but then reappropriated to be this very, you know, hoity-toity academic exercise where it's like, no, this is like a practical thing that people had to deal with because it is just a natural thing that some women are going to be very butch and some men are going to be very feminine.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things of like taking the extreme to be the norm. And it's like, no, it's like the whole thing of like, oh, I'm intersex. The amount of
they all got on that one. In the past like 3-4 years, they realized like, oh, this trans thing has no basis, whatever. So they all are like, I'm intersex now. Oh, I have internal testes, whatever. First of all, statistically, no, you're not. Right? 99.9, I obviously play the stat out my ass, but 99.9% of people who call themselves trans are biologically typical men or women, right? That being said, we never could like, if you have a vulva, and if I could, like, even if you're like technically like, oh, my hormone levels, I have a cyst on my ovary, I'm intersex. It's like, bitch,
no,
let's be fucking for real. Like, and that's a red herring that they love to do now. But they won. I think it's really important to remember. I think now, because I've been talking about this shit for, you know, this for like 5 years at this point. But I think, you know, and it's been a while since I've done an appearance or whatever, like talked to anyone about this stuff. I think it's important for me to say now, closing out 2025, they've absolutely won. The trans question, whatever, has absolutely won. Anyone telling you otherwise, that there's been some sort of victory against the woke on this or whatever, is selling you a bridge. They've absolutely won. There's no opposition to it. The Republicans, the right, are a full pro-trans, pro-LGBT, whatever party. So there's no organized opposition to it. It's just that we're going to be on to the next thing.
Yeah. I mean, saying that, it's kind of funny that like I actually was had an account banned when I used Reddit like years ago because someone's like, oh, I'm trans, and somebody started like grilling the dude, and then they said and I said, oh well, no, I'm intersex, that's why I'm trans. And I said, congratulations, you won the genetic lottery. That the odds of having that, like, and they that got banned from Reddit for saying that because like it's astronomical to have that, you know, kind of like the odds are just amazing. But no, I mean, you're right, because like I have a couple jobs I do now. Like I scale back from teaching. I'm only do a couple classes, and then I do case management and chaplaincy. And so if I happen to go to the hospital and I said tranny, like on because this is separate from that, like and I said tranny in the hospital, I would be shit canned. I would like I would lose my case management thing. I would be kicked from being a chaplain. All of that would be stricken from me, like probably that day for saying tranny. And it's true. There is like a categorical, like they just categorically won. It's like, it's our Waterloo. We had to surrender it.
Bostock is still the law of the land.
Mm-hmm.
Gender identity and expression is still incorporated into the Civil Rights Act through Bostock, and the people that were talking about this, saying that they were doing stuff about this, whatever, have accepted that whatever. I don't even know what victories they claim, right? They claim, I saw Ben Shapiro tweet something where it's like, oh, we had a major win against whatever. It's like, I don't know. I guess sports or something, like some sort of like minutia in like the Olympics or NAACP or not NAACP, whatever. What's the college sports thing?
NCAA.
Yeah.
Give it to the straight guy top of my head. Like as I'm wearing my Green Bay Packers shirt.
Like, what sports? But yeah, it's like those are your wins, right? And it's like I've said since 2020, I was like, the left will happily give up quote unquote childhood transitions so long as you don't touch gender identity expression in the Civil Rights Act, because that's what they care about. It's about that censorship. It's about that funneling of funds to their base. And it's JD Vance is going to be our first trans president.
First, okay.
He's gonna appoint Pariah the doll as Secretary of Cunty House Down Boots.
It's gonna be Pariah the doll's gonna be a Secretary of Brat.
Literally, it's gonna be a great right wing Hyperborean victory, and it's gonna be Bronze Age, and it's a new Golden Age, and all right. So like, I love being retired because I'm like, girl, you guys are a clown show. I'm out of here. I'm checked out.
So why aren't you really that fan of that good of a JD Vance fan? Do you want to go into that a little bit? You muted yourself. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, for some reason it's coming out of my phone now.
Okay.
But you can still hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm pessimistic about JD Vance, not necessarily because of JD Vance himself, but because of everything around him, right? The whole Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen bullshit, the David Frum, the whole everything downstream of him. Yeah. And I'm like, I would rather be ruled over by my enemies than be ruled over by my enemies and constantly told that they're my friends. You get what I'm saying? I'd rather, if Kamala Harris was president, we may have still bombed Iran, okay? But you would have had a united front condemning it. You would not have had major sections saying, actually, this is limited, and actually, this is based, and this is America first, and this is what we always wanted, and blah, 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 blah. So it's like, that's my issue, right? I mean, I've said a million times, if we get to 1 million deportations a year by 2027, it's not looking like it. But if we get there, I'll eat crow, and I'll say, all hail JD Vance, and I'll upload myself to the fucking cloud and kill myself or whatever, however they want us to do that mass extinction event that they're planning. I'll do the whole bit. But we're not getting there. And I don't think we're going to get there. And with the President JD Vance, it's going to be 4 or 8 more years of like DHS posting based videos while they don't really deport anyone. And it's like, all right, cool, great, love it.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, I was like, as a vet, I'm very disappointed with the bombing of Iran kind of thing, because like the first thing that I absolutely loved was how Trump went to the demilitarized zone of North Korea and South Korea and shook hands with Kim Jong-un. I was like, yes, because having been to war, it's like, no, we should not be in war kind of thing. And that like that action was just like, this pissed me off. It really, that like, that's the one thing I'm like, oh man, because it's like how you said, like the enemy, like, you know, if the Democrats did it, it would have been a united front. You wouldn't have had people like you know, Normicon Inc. like glazing it how wonderful it was. And that's just it. Like, if I spoke out against it, oh, you're anti-troop, you're anti-military. It's like, no, I'm anti-people getting bombed because Israel said they're days away from a nuke, which is
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. It's like I always I just think war is not a good thing. You
yeah,
know, I just think it's not for the benefit of me, my class cohort, my class interests, my neighbor's interests, my whatever. It's for the benefit of defense contractors and, you know, foreign
yeah,
nations and whatever, foreign lobbyists. And it's like I don't understand, or I don't appreciate the pressure to like say that what is not necessarily in my interest or in my interest, right? If you
yeah,
want to make an argument that it is, make the argument, right? Because you can make arguments about when JD Vance ends up toppling, does the regime change in Venezuela and start sending troops there, which I'm pretty sure will happen eventually. You
yeah,
know, you can at least make an argument from like a Monroe Doctrine standpoint, from a resource extraction standpoint, whatever, and be like, all right, make the case, right? I'm not a bleeding heart. I'm not saying like,
yeah,
oh my goodness, we should have higher gas prices because we don't want to bomb anything. It's like, no, I don't care necessarily. But it's like, why are we bombing Iran?
yeah.
That's what's that have to do with anything? You know, it's like,
Well, I mean, Israel said that they're
I mean,
days
I
away
know
from having
why,
a bomb,
obviously,
but
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I know why. I mean,
Well, I
trust me,
mean,
I know why.
that's one thing too, which got me like as an anti-Semitic, because I was like, I criticized Israel. It's like criticizing Israel is not criticizing a Jewish person or like saying something anti-Semitic. I'm criticizing Israel's foreign policy, kind of thing. And the fact that, like, to me, it's like, okay, I can understand, as like former military, I can understand like the safe harbor doctrine of why Israel is an ally. You know, it's a safe harbor for the US and the Middle East. Makes sense. But if we need to give them trillions of dollars a year to maintain that, like, I was like, that's extortion, not a partnership. And that's what's called anti-Semitic. I'm like, you're saying Israel extorts the US. I'm like, no, I'm saying that if this is the case, to maintain the safe harbor, we need to give them trillions of dollars. Then yeah, that comes down with extortion, and people just lost their shit at me.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with anything you said or whatever. It's like, in the same respect that I refuse to prostrate myself to in terms of like race worship. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to anoint the feet of black people after George Floyd riots or whatever. I'm not
Yeah.
going to do the same thing with the abstraction of quote unquote Jewish people that may live in my head, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why I like using like the little trademark symbol.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll be like, I'm not anti-Semitic, right? Some of my, I love all, some
Yeah.
Jewish people are some of the closest people to me, whatever. But in terms of the way that it's like thrown around and bandied about, yeah, I
Yeah.
am anti-Semitic TM. I am that you know, deracinated, you know, thought terminating cliche that people try to throw at. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I don't give a fuck. I'm
Yeah.
not going to. But that being said, obviously, I denounce all forms of racism, homophobia, transphobia, blah 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 blah. But
Yeah.
like, it's because I refuse to. I'm not going to engage in your ethno narcissism. I'm not
Yeah.
going to, just like I'm not going to engage in white ethno narcissism. I'm not going to engage in black ethno narcissism. I'm not going to engage in any of that, and I'm not going to be blackmailed by the history of a historical tragedy to color my perception of the world today.
Yeah.
People die every day. Tragedies have happened all throughout history. In my own lifetime, my co-ethnics have been killed by the thousand by my government, right? But I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be handcuffed by the memory of something that happened 80 years ago.
Yeah.
And if I don't,
Well,
I'm some sort of morally repugnant person. I refuse to buy this framing.
well, I mean, that's always find so funny about kind of like the ethno-nationalist kind of people. It's, I always find it very interesting of it's like, it's almost like an ever spiraling no true Scotsman kind of thing. That you can pass one of the no true Scotsmen, and then there's another one. Well, what about this? So kind of like me, it's like my great aunt and great grandmother were Dakota, so that's 4 generations ago. Like, so that would make me not white to some of them. You know, considering that, like, you know, so that would be my father. My mother was Norwegian. My, you know, so my grandparents were like, so my grandfather was half Dakota. Great grandfather, my grandfather's half Dakota, my father's a quarter. That would make me an eighth, kind of thing.
Right.
But
See,
like,
but what we're
but
talking about here is a conflation
yeah,
of race and
yeah,
ethnicity, right?
yeah,
Where ethnicity is absolutely real, right? It's
yeah,
about haplogroups, it's about your DNA, it's about all of that stuff. Race is an abstraction, a legal political abstraction based off of that biological referent of
yeah,
ethnicity, right? So when we're talking about white, brown, black, red, yellow, whatever, that's a race thing, right? And it's a
yeah,
level abstracted, it's a level removed, it's a level faker than ethnicity, right?
yeah,
I always use the example. I'm like, all right, if a person has a black grandparent, a Scot grandparent, a Native American grandparent, and a Han Chinese grandparent, what race are they? It becomes an absurd question, right?
yeah,
I can tell you what ethnicity they are based on what haplogroups show up in their genome, whatever, and like
yeah,
all that. I can tell you their ethnicity. Their ethnicity is, you know, Scotch, Han Chinese, this and this and this. But in the same way that sex, biological sex, is the biological referent for which gender is an abstracted thing. And this is why, when you're in this like right wing sphere,
hmm,
I never took seriously like accusations of being brown, right?
yeah,
Because it's like, yeah, I don't give a fuck, right? But also, it's fake and gay. Your race science
yeah,
is fake and gay because for every person who will call me brown, I could find a very high IQ, quote unquote, race scientist who will be like, well, actually, Pashtuns are an Aryan tribe, and you're actually
yeah,
white adjacent. And really, what it then becomes is like, who's the most clouded up between the people with the varying opinions? And it's
yeah.
just Basil's
Well,
brown or Aryan, depending on who's more clouded up providing the opinion.
well, I mean, that's I mean how it kind of becomes a spiraling no true Scotsman kind of thing. Because
Exactly.
like the return to the land person. So I would technically not be white enough to move my family there, because of that 1/8. Well, I guess that'd be 1/4 because my mother is pure Norwegian. But so I wouldn't be loyal enough. But him having done OnlyFans with his ex-wife now lives
I
there
love
with
his
another
work. I
man.
love his work.
I know. I saw your tweet about that. And now his ex-wife is doing OnlyFans with a new husband, like in their shack down there. So it's like, okay, so I'm not white enough to live there, but you're moral enough to have done pornography with your wife, and your wife now does porn with another man. That's moral enough,
Right.
And it's like, dude, I'm sorry, I look like pure Norwegian. I only have the benefit of I don't burn like Norwegians, and I get tan lines that last until March.
Right.
That's the genetic that's the genetic Native American I have. But that's what
Well,
I
yeah,
find so
there's always
funny
like
about
this
that.
schizophrenic thing about, on the right, especially specifically, where it's like about, it's all of these different piecemeal things trying to hold themselves together, right? Where
Yeah,
it's like you have these vitalist, amoral whatevers, and then you have a huge, Christian, and then like a Christian LARP, a trad LARP, a thing, and all these people trying to
mhm,
be held together. And it's like, if you actually try to engage with it on its own terms and make sense of it and try to live in it,
yeah,
you'll be schizophrenic by the end of the year.
yeah,
Because it's not meant to make a coherent sense. And it's like, it's important to then remember that what you're seeing on the timeline and whatever is like the equivalent of like a playpen, a loading area, a holding stage for these disaffected right liberal men. I was going to say white men, but many cases not,
yeah,
men, for them to play with dollies and say, oh, JD Vance is going to put you in a crystal. And, oh, actually, I'm a barbarian. And, oh, actually,
yeah,
and it's like, once you take a step back, it's like, it's impossible for me to take it seriously. But it's also like, it breaks my heart, really. It really, truly does, to see otherwise intelligent men
hmm,
who I know for a fact in their real life are accomplished in some way or at least functional or whatever, devolve into this, playing with dollies on the internet and really convincing themselves that they're in a movement as opposed to being in a fandom.
yeah. I mean, it really is kind of like LARPing, because you have these people who like, oh, like I'm descended from this pagan tribe. It's like, I made a tweet a while ago. I was like, if you need to claim like a dissension from some sort of like emperor, king, dynasty, or something for validation online, you have an identity crisis. Because the thing is, like,
Right.
you have a lot of these men that they grew up in that, like, that gap, like Generation X millennial gap, where men didn't really have a solid identity, and now almost like there's almost a weird neo-pagan. They're latching onto their truth, like their roots. And I find it funny how, like, the JQ people, like the Jewish question people, have quickly now evolved into the CQ people, the Christ question people. How
Right.
Christianity is a Jewish psyop to control the pagans.
Right. Yeah.
And
I hate the term Christ cuck.
yeah,
I hate that term. But yeah, no, it's absolutely true. And it's because, like, we live in a fully postmodern period.
yeah,
We are fully past the modern era, right? And the end of World War II was the destruction of the modern era,
yeah,
right? And that's all and this is why, for me, I got to this sphere not by reading Evola and Nick Land and Curtis Yarvin or whatever, which many of these people claim to. I don't think they've actually ever read anything in their lives.
yeah,
But I got here from reading Marx and Foucault and whatever, and being a postmodernist, like being a Marxist in that way. And so I don't know have you ever seen the movie The Apprentice, the recent one
yep.
about Donald Trump?
No, I haven't seen that one. No.
Yeah, so it came out, I think, last year. It's about Donald Trump and his relationship with Roy Cohn. And one of the things that Roy Cohn talks about when he's, like, instructing Trump is, like, I forget what the exact, I'm going to paraphrase, but being like, never admit fault, never whatever. There's no such thing as objective truth. It's, repeat it, repeat. And it's like, yeah, he's a right postmodernist.
Yeah.
Right. People think of postmodernism as a strictly left phenomenon, but
Yeah.
I've told people for years, I'm like, you should be reading Foucault from the right.
Yeah.
Because during COVID, in Australia, they were putting people in mental institutions for refusing to get the jab.
Oh yeah.
My Foucauldian brain was, like, fucking firing on all cylinders, because I read Madness and Civilization. So I understood how mental health and the asylums and all of these things are, like, mechanisms for power. So, and I think, and that's reading it from the right? I wasn't reading it from the left, because from the left position would have been, yeah, you should be in jail for not getting the vaccine. But it's like, you need to understand the milieu that we're in, and the milieu that we're in is postmodern. That's why it's like you have so many, like, gay Christians and gay Muslims and this and that. And it's because we're all, like, hodgepodging our identities together.
I mean, because when you were saying that, I was thinking about, like, a lot of those people, like, they haven't read Marx and other authors. Like, they're all like, what Machiavellian archetype am I? Like, they're all about the prince and stuff. But, like, people know the quote, but they don't know where it comes from. That the God is dead. Right. And I love Twilight's of God, because the whole section is a madman runs into the marketplace proclaiming God is dead. Everyone in the marketplace says, we know we don't need him anymore. And that is a big part of postmodernism. That's how we can get to a lot of this stuff, is that people are like, well, we don't need God. We can make God into whatever we want God to be. God doesn't have to be what God has been. We can make God like a wonderful woman, like they did in a church in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, and said, "Oh how," and sing, "Oh how she loves us," because you've now decided God is a woman, and it's and that's what it is. It's this the lack of identity.
It wasn't a declarative statement; it was a descriptive statement. It wasn't a statement saying, "I have killed God." It's saying we already live in a situation in which God, as the foundation, as the entirety of the rubric by which we live our lives, right? Of European Christendom, of canon law, of these types of things, of being the basis of our society, have already been deracinated thanks to Napoleon, right? Thanks to the French Revolution, thanks to the American Revolution, right? And that's why when Curtis Yarvin says that the founders were leftists, he's absolutely right. They were 18th century leftists. They were the vanguard of liberalism. They were the bleeding edge of liberalism. It was only with the Bolsheviks that they then became the bleeding edge of liberalism, right? And the way that liberalism works, it's a totalizing ideology, right? And Nick Land talks about, it reaching in from the future to create itself. And that's
Mhm.
kind of how it is in the sense that once there is a new vanguard, the previous vanguard ends up being a rear guard and conservative. And,
Yeah.
it's what we see all the time. We see it with the homocons, where at one time, 20 years ago, you were the vanguard pushing for the expansion of the Civil Rights Act for your sexual identity. Now,
Mhm.
20 years on, you are railing against the vanguard, which wants to expand it for gender identity expression while maintaining and preserving and conserving your just previous vanguardism. And one thing that you mentioned too, where it's like people say they read Marx. When people say they read Marx, they mean that they read the Communist Manifesto.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand how deeply embarrassing it is to say that you've read Marx when you are saying that you've read the Communist Manifesto. The Communist Manifesto is this fucking big. It is a political pamphlet, right?
Yeah.
When you have read Marx, it means you read Capital. Did you read fucking Capital? I can't even fucking read Capital. Or last time I tried, I gave up because I ended up having to listen to David Harvey's lecture series on it, and it really helped me understand it. Or reading the 18th Brumaire. My whole thing about talking about the left
Mhm.
as a cognizable political structure with material constituent parts of tech, defense, pharma, finance, funding the professional managerial class who's in coalition with lumpen proletariat elements like the migrants, the criminals, whatever. That's Bonapartism, and that is straight up from Marx, 18th Brumaire, and it's like it's only with that kind of conceptual framing that I've been able to not get lost in the sauce, because so many of these people here want to just throw around words like it's the communists, and what they
Yeah.
mean is Zoran Mamdani, or it's the Democrats. Oh, really? It's the Democrats? Well, what about fucking Liz Cheney? What about
Yeah.
Mitt Romney? What about Lindsey Graham? What are we talking about here? And it's the Jews. Okay, it's like, oh no, okay, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's a joke. But yeah, no, and this is why I find accusation, because currently right now there are people who are trying to like get my law license removed by claiming that I'm an anti-Semite or this or that or the other thing. It's like I
Yeah.
feel very comfortable explaining what I believe, and it has nothing to do with 15th century European peasant anti-Semitism, right? I'm
Yeah.
talking about a political structure that's about the economy, that's tech, and yeah, so yeah, people should read Marx from the right. People should read Foucault from the right, and it's
Yeah.
totally possible to be done.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's always very important to understand your opposition's ideology to like understand your own, because like you can say these buzzwords and you tickle people's ears, but a lot of times they don't know what you're actually arguing.
Right.
And oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, but to be fair, most of our opposition are not Marxists, cultural or otherwise.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, what we're talking about are radical liberals. They want to dissolve all non-transactional bonds. Right. They want to make every bond subject to the market, every transaction, every interaction subject to the market. Right. Which is why even to this day, we have like the last bastion of non-transactional human interaction is the family, right? And that's why we have this whole rigmarole about your children being taught that they're trans and being taught to denounce their parents,
Yeah.
and then going to make an OnlyFans. It's about dissolving that non-transactional relationship, and it's about sweeping away the last vestiges of pre-capital patriarchy. And that's liberalism. That's what liberalism did. That's what liberalism is doing. That's what liberalism is always doing. So these people are Marxists in the sense that they're calling for, they're not consciously calling for it, at least, the monopolization of the economy so that the state can take it over, right? That would be like a self-conscious type of thing where it's like, who's a communist? Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is a communist. He believes in monopolizing large swaths of the economy, but he doesn't want to do the last bit. He wants to maintain it as a private monopoly. And it's like, well, eventually you get to the point where you can't do that, right? I mean, theoretically that is like, in theory, we're supposed to get to a point where people are like, well, why the fuck should Jeff Bezos, or because what it will be, why the fuck should Jeff Bezos' great great grandson be this guy? And we're going to actually just nationalize this, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to like really understand Marx, because it makes you, because no, Marx was not about communism, right? Lenin was about communism. And I think it's important to read Lenin too. But Marx was about understanding liberalism and understanding capitalism.
I think because you said like the people who are like trying to push this stuff, I always view it as like they're like a tool that someone is using to bang against the anvil, and they keep banging the tool against the anvil until the anvil breaks. Then they move on to the next one, and if the tool breaks first, they grab a different tool and start banging away. And I think that is a big difference between liberalism and conservatism. Conservatism tries to hold it together. They by and large, conservatives won't take a part of their own group and start using it like a tool to start hammering on an object like a lot of liberal thoughts will. This is my kind of conjecture. I'm not as articulate as you are.
Yeah.
And I always kind of look at it as like it's like a blacksmith trying to destroy the anvil. That
Right.
like either the anvil's destroyed and they move to a different one, or the tool breaks and they grab a different one. And conservative by and large is the anvil just kind of just sitting there, not really doing anything and just getting hammered on. And that's
Right,
kind of
but
how
like
it's been the pattern.
to stay with your metaphor, right?
Yeah.
It's like, all right, they're going to keep using tools until they break it, and then they move on to the next thing to break that, and to move on to the next thing to break that. And if the tool breaks, they'll replace the tool to keep going. The conservative in this metaphor will only conserve the anvil that's currently being broken, right? It will never be as that, and they will always fail. They will always fail. That anvil will be broken. It'll be a new anvil. They'll try to conserve that one. It'll be broken, and they'll move on. And that's why it's this kind of this harmonious relationship. When we talk about right and left, we're talking about, or we're talking about conservative and liberal. We're talking about the left and right of liberalism, capital L, right? The vanguard and the rear guard. It's like almost thinking of it as like an arrowhead, right? The left, the progressive, is always going to be that sharp end. The blunt end is the conservative, right, liberal, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And they can't weaponize it. They can't do anything. They are the blunt end. All they can do is try to, shore up the cuts of the gains of the vanguard and hope that they, and can kind of move liberalism forward. It just constantly is moving forward. It's a never-ending machine.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of conservatives fail to understand, is that the only thing you're trying to conserve is not being destroyed at this moment. You basically, what you're conserving is your ability to not be destroyed. And like, I'll be honest, like my family is like lifelong farmers or career military, and the fact that like I'm openly talking to you or co-hosting with Brentley or in like really good terms with wonderful gay conservatives, they would hate me for that. Like they would like, why are you talking to this person? And and the thing is, we're at a point where we're past that now, kind of thing. Well, that's just kind of okay, big tent, more like norms, and just like I find benefit in having conversations with very different people, which I might have disagreements with, but for the most part, like I said, that like staunch heterodoxy, conserving everything, that's gone, kind of thing. You're going to have to actively rebuild that. You can't go back to pieces, because if you go back to the pieces, you don't have anything.
And no one wants it.
Yeah.
No one wants it. The trad LARPers don't want it. The conservative LARPers, the normie cons don't want. No one wants to go. No one wants to live like a Christian. No one wants to live like a Muslim, because we live the same way. Go back in America 100 years, and you would swear a conservative today would swear that they were in Taliban Afghanistan, because where's the woman without her male escort? Why a woman cannot sue? What is coverture? That is a Western identity. That's a Western concept, right? We have an Eastern version of it called parda, right? Where it's a division between women's access to the public sphere.
Yeah.
Same type of thing. But no one wants it. They say they want it. They don't fucking want it. They all love to fuck. They all love to suck. They all love to do everything, right? No one they love their fornication. They don't want to be punished for fornicating. They don't want to be punished. They don't want to live like that. And that's why it's like, it's something that's so obvious to me, because what they say they want is my family a generation ago, right? Not necessarily my family. My family was very like loosey goosey with it, but like the country that my parents left, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like you don't want to live like that. You mock those people, and even today, the very very popular Christian podcasts. One of them said recently something about slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Something about slavery, how it's biblically justified, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like,
okay, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
They get on my fucking nerves all the fucking time, because 20 years ago, you would have said the Taliban are backwards, the Taliban are this, the Taliban are that. Not 5 years ago, well, at this point, 10 years ago, you would have said ISIS taking war brides was a human rights violation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You motherfuckers, not to create an equivalence between the Taliban and ISIS. ISIS has always been the bad guys. The Taliban has always been the good guys. That being in my worldview. But in that being said, you people owe the fucking Taliban a lot of fucking apologies. Because the cultural zeitgeist has shifted to playing with that edgy illiberalism, right? Where it's like, but that's not how you actually want to live. You're not about that fucking life. Because when you see people who are about that life, you clutch your little pearls about it and you say, oh, those are those brown muzzies. Guess what, bitch? Your great-great-grandparents, your great-great-great-great-grandparents were the equivalent of brown muzzies because of how they lived in Christendom.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
we killed God, so it's like.
Well, I mean, yeah, remaking God, they want, but like how you saying about like the trad wife LARPers. I don't know if you know who Jaden McNeil is. I follow
probably
him.
come across him, but not the name.
Okay, yeah, he was expelled from K-State for saying that George Floyd died of a fentanyl overdose, and then tweeting that the cops tried to miss Breonna Taylor, but she was too fat. So he was expelled from K-State for those things. But
so he's expelled for being funny.
Yeah, pretty much. And so so he made a thing about this like trad wife LARPer, and he goes like talking about her husband, like, oh, her poor husband, he can't watch Fox News or anything TPUSA without seeing a guy he's Eskimo brothers with. And I'm just like, I was like, damn, that is a burn, like kind of thing. And the funny thing is like they try to do this whole like, oh, we're anti-gay, we're traditional, but like they had the one guy that's on Jubilee stay with him for 48 hours. It's like I don't want to say their names, but like I'll be honest, like and I don't mean this as shame to Mike Harlow. Mike Harlow is awesome, but they would drop everything to go do an event with Mike Harlow. Right. And as much as they try to like do this, like I'm radical, anti-gays are gross, blah 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 blah. Let's be honest, you'd have to drop the hat to basically go whore yourself to be with this incredibly popular homocon. Let's just be honest. Like just be like I'm like I don't care if you're a hypocrite, just be an honest hypocrite kind of thing. And that's so hard to find. But
it's a strict media market friend enemy distinction, right? They know where their bread is buttered. They know which pegs to put the thing in to advance their career. And it's the same thing in my own dissident rights sphere. But it was for a long time where people would be like, "Oh, Basil's gay, Basil's gay, Basil's gay," because these are like right wing LARPers. Meanwhile. They're having sleepovers with Benjamin Braddock, noted homosexual. They're sleeping with my trans friend. I'm like, girl, I know all your tea. What are we talking about here? It's like, and at that time too, I was LARPing and saying I was celibate. So because I wanted to like, what? I'm celibate now. What, bitch? Even though it was not true at all the whole time. Whatever. I probably shouldn't have done that, but who cares? I stand by. I would do it again. But. Even then, I'd be like, well, I'm celibate, but you're fucking more men than I am. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, but Basil's gay, don't listen to him, because it's this strict friend enemy distinction. It was just a canard, a thing to throw in my face in order to like, but that's the thing. We're all, men of the 21st century. Yeah. No one the gay debate is over and done with. And actually, when you conflate the trans thing with the gay thing, you're helping the trans thing. Yeah. Because everyone's accepted the gay thing.
My kind of standard is like when it comes to gays and lesbians, I don't care if you're a lesbian, just don't be mean about it. And I don't care if you're gay, just don't be gross about it. It's fair. Like I don't want to feel like being your friend, I'm at risk of getting a dick pic. Like as long as we have that, we're good, kind of thing. But
no, totally. I mean,
and I think a lot of people that's what I'm trying to say, they can't just find a common ground or commonality with somebody like, hey, religiously, morally, whatever, I disagree with this, but we agree on these things. We can still work together on these things. And it's just like, it's like, no, battle lines are drawn. Like you can't work with Basil. He's brown and gay and fat and blah blah blah. It's like, no, Basil's
And
got
it's
some really
funny
good
because
ideas.
and it's funny because despite my own moral failings, theologically, I'm an Orthodox Muslim, right? I do not twist the tenets of my faith, right? I don't say what is permissible is not permissible, what's not permissible is permissible, right? So when it comes to people who are more religiously minded, I very often, especially when speaking to, kind of milquetoast evangelical Christians, I have the more, biblically doctrinal worldview on something, right? Where I'm like, no, your son is not gay. Your son is fornicating. Your son's a sodomite. It's like, love him all you want. Of course, love, hate the sin, love the sinner. But, and it's like, especially when it comes to Reformed Jews, evangelical Christians, I don't see eye to eye with them.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Orthodox Jews, Orthodox Christians, Catholics, people who are like, God has rules. He told them what they are. It's whether you follow them or not. This is a free country where, post Enlightenment, post revolution, whatever. That's your business. That's between you and God. But we all know what the fucking rules are. I'm not here going to be like Sodom was about inhospitality.
Yeah. I always think it's funny because like that's one thing I would really do appreciate about you is that you're very consistent with all your stances. And as you're saying that there's somebody who has me blocked, and I was just laughing because like you quote tweeted them, and you might know who this is. I'm kind of not saying people's names, but you said you're like, oh please, like stop moralizing. You have an alt account of you farting out loads.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm like, damn, that is a good burn. Like putting in this place.
I'm like, do whatever the fuck you want. Do whatever the fuck you want. But it's annoying to me with these homocons where it's like, I don't know how to phrase this. I'm not some sort of radical, right? I'm not some sort of aesthete. I'm not some sort of like hermit. I'm not some sort of reject the world and its worldly delights. No, baby, I partake in the world and its worldly delights, right? However, I'm very aware of the political structure that forced me in my house over the flu, wanted to get me to force me to get the jab, wants to flood the country with migrants, wants to censor the discourse, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I take I don't want to say, I'm not aggressive about it. I'm just very 10 toes down. I'm very clear about where the lines are, right? So I'm like, baby, I don't care if you take PrEP, but if you take PrEP, you're a leftist. So actually what you should do, you should just go be pro-trans. Why are you here taking PrEP and railing against the trannies? You are on the same side as them. You're actually their strongest soldier because you're engaging in this fake kayfabe wrestling match with them. Where it's like you're all on the same side.
Yeah, I mean that's like one thing too. Like it's like for me, I'm very anti-porn, especially for young men, because I think it damages young men's psyches. And I was like really speaking against it. And I had a couple of homocons yell at me about how like, oh no, porn is a healthy male outlet, blah blah blah. And like all of them have like alt accounts, like OnlyFans. I'm like, no wonder. Like you have a vested monetary interest in me not doing this talking point.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, one of them, the most successful of them, because the one who's willing to do the work, I forget what his name is, but he's kind of swarthy looking. He's white, but he's very brown looking. I forget what he's the most successful of them. He just had Devin Franco on his podcast. I've seen a man clap inside Devin Franco's ass. I've seen a man go like this. Okay? So I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? Just because he says the N-word, that is the sum total of your political ideology, right?
Yeah.
And this is the problem, and I've said this before. The sum total of the homocon's political ideology is getting female to male trans people out of porn and bringing back the race filter on Grindr. And that's it.
Yeah.
And that's if they got those two things, they won.
Yeah, I always laugh because because of some weirdo like Devin Franco, and I only know that name because he blew up my mentions like talking shit about me because like my old wedding ring, I was working on a tractor and I smashed it, pinched it. He's like, how did he smash it? Like, if you still have a finger, it's like you realize you can smash a gold ring, it's easy
Yeah,
and
it's
not take
actually
off your finger.
metal. It's a metal thing around my
Yeah,
finger.
it's like I'm sorry that no respecting guy wants anything to do with you, kind of thing. But so like
Listen, I'd party with Devin Franco, but I'm not trying to do politics with him. That's the difference, and that's what these homocons don't understand. They think that my critique of their political positions is like a broader critique of like their hedonism or whatever. I'm like, girl, no, I am as much of a hedonist as anyone else. I am not a moralist, but it's separate from my politics, right? I don't take prep. I just know who I'm not getting with. I take a good look.
Yeah, I mean, because I was laughing because like Devin Franco, he basically blames brain damage from getting meningitis or something, or encephalitis or something, and then getting brain damage. And when he recovered, he was conservative. That's kind of the cliff notes of his journey from leftist gay porn star to conservative politics. Do you know that part?
I feel like I didn't know that, but I feel like even calling him a gay porn star hides the ball because there are gay porn stars. Okay, there's gay sex is obviously like physically bad on your body and whatever. It's not good for your your anatomy or whatever. What Devin Franco does is something else. There has to be a different word for it because if we're doing this, it's not what I have gay sex. I'm not doing this. All right. I'm not like
he's reaching Mr. Hand's level of homoeroticism.
Someone is operating him.
It's like I put on just tons of blocks. I was reading the articles that went to Queerty or something, and I didn't know the website. And I just I'm gonna block any image that loads because I didn't trust it. And again, basically, he talks about how he got brain damage from like encephalitis or meningitis or something, and then that's why he became conservative.
That tracks. Most of these people are brain damaged, so that tracks.
Yeah, I mean, I've had so many people flag stuff because I said, "Well, your advanced HIV dementia showing," or like they got mad, or I said like, "You Swiss cheese popper brain." They get mad at me, but I'm just like, well, I mean, what are the conclusions here? It's like, I mean, I'm the most gay accepting homophobe you'll find on the internet.
Oh, well, no, that's the thing. It's because of your proximity to so many of these homosexuals.
Yeah.
I know you hoes. Okay? I know what you're getting up to. I know you're blowing clouds. I know you're singing that Tina Turner, girl. I know what's going on. I know what's happening. Mm-hmm. So it's like, don't try to. I'm not going to clock you every time, but don't play stupid in my face.
Well, see, that's why I laugh at myself because like becoming friends with a lot of you, I found myself in Bible college. We had this thing we called it Totally Gay for Jesus, and so like in Minneapolis, like I'd go to uptown area just to get out of, because we call it the bubble, just to get out into the real world, and like so Christian guys like it would be out at a coffee shop in uptown, like the hippie area, and people would think we're gay because the thing is like how nice we are, how polite we are, saying please and thank you, just talking to anybody. People would assume we're gay, and so we have the joke term Totally Gay for Jesus, because like, no, we're straight Christians. We're just very nice. We're not trying to get with you, and it's funny seeing the same thing here on the internet because like, oh no, he's gay, blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, find one person I hit on.
Right.
Like I've been on.
Leak the DMs. Find me the DMs.
Yeah, like I like find me like I jokingly sent someone like this like one joke. It's like a still from like a porno, and it says, "Do you like your Christmas present?" And I said, "I bet it's a PS5." Like that's a meme and a joke. Like I'm joking. I totally don't get it. That's not hating on you. That's not sharing porn. Like find and it's like, nope, you are. I'm like, okay, cool. I like it doesn't bother me, but. We're coming up to an hour
so
here.
Right. It is being gay is a bad thing to be.
Yeah.
You're so right. I agree. Being gay is something I should be ashamed of and remorseful about.
Yeah. I always laugh with like oh, shut up, bottom. I'm like, okay, weird. Gay people are weird that you use those like insults, but I don't get it. I'll go with it. You guys do you. But we're coming up to an hour here, and I don't take much more of your time. Do you want to plug anywhere to find you?
No, actually.
No, actually.
If you want to follow Basilian Thought, turn on notifications because I am retired, so I'm mostly deactivated. I'll come by for a quick little pew 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 to like shoot off some hot takes, but no, unfortunately, because these people are sick and these people, want to have me fired from my job and email my job and file complaints with the bar association and all this stuff. I can't really do. I'm kind of muzzled. So no, don't find me. Yeah. So don't find me. You'll find me somewhere. I'm sure. Find me in a New York City dark room.
You'll probably see me retweeting you or like
Yeah,
quoting you.
yeah. Well, on my brief stints back because I can't hold myself back.
And I will say that the only lawyers complaint I ever filed in my life is that when I was doing case management in the Twin Cities and I came butting heads with a very angry lesbian lawyer, she took my picture and posted it on her law firm Twitter account saying this man is harassing me. And I'm like, oh bitch, it's on. So for like 3.5 years, I won like all the appeals of her trying to get it dismissed. And finally, the Minnesota's Lawyers Professional Responsibility Board came back and said, well, you weren't a client, but she did act unethically. So, but we're not going to like put an ethics complaint against her. She's got that little asterisk because I'm like, you made a declaratory statement about our professional interaction, you dumb bitch. So yeah, that was the first person to attempt to dox me. And
they're just trying to say, I guess, that I'm like a racist, homophobic, transphobic, anti-Semite, or whatever. And it's like, I disavow all forms of racism, homophobia, transphobia, misogyny, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not like
I mean,
that's the world we live in.
Well, like someone saying today that why give you a platform, you're irrelevant. It's like, well, no, Basil's very relevant compared to your sad, irrelevant catfishing life. And on that,
What else
it was great.
Say?
Basil, it was great having you on and finally having a chat with you. I will keep you posted of when this goes live. Awesome. And as always, if you disappear far too long, I do know people in New York City who will track you down and do a welfare check for me.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. It was great. Thank you for having me.
All right, everyone, thank you for tuning in and have a good rest of your day.